have to be trained.
All right. Hi, and welcome to the Skeptical Leftist podcast, the show where I talk to a variety of people to spread critical thinking, progressive politics, and left-wing philosophy. And I'm going to say this is probably wrong, but today I'm joined by Siobhan.
It's either Siobhan or Siobhan. I prefer Siobhan, but either one is fine.
Okay.
As I said earlier when we were talking, the original full name is Siobhan O'Connor, which is kind of hard for some people to pronounce.
For sure.
That's the original form of O'Connor. So but I prefer Siobhan. So.
All right. No, that's I can try to accommodate that.
Not a problem.
So I guess the first thing we gotta get out is like an introduction. Like, so who are you?
Oh Lordy. Okay. I'm ADHD. Okay. I have CPTSD. I am bipolar disorder 2, chronic depression, anxiety. I got more letters in my name in those conditions than I do in my name. I am a 64-year-old omnisexual binary trans woman. I came out in 2015 at the Walmart I was working at. I've been out for a couple of years with my family, but not really socially or at work. And at that time, I was the only one. Now they have like 35 employees that fit in the queer umbrella.
Oh, wow.
I served in the military. I started getting into activism 98 or 99. For the first 30 years of my life, this is kind of a long list, so I will try to abbreviate it, but I was a faith healing, rock record burning. Literally, we had a bonfire in our church when I was 13 and burned rock records. Speaking in tongues, dancing in the aisles. We had Bible study 4 times a week, not counting church. I went to Bible camp every year.
Wow.
Evangelical, fundamentalist, white Christian nationalist, Pentecostal Assembly of God Christian.
Wow.
And what saved my life and my sanity was that I was trans. I knew I've been trans since the time I was 4.
Okay.
I say this. I've said this a couple of times on my Facebook, but when I was 4-ish, I decided to try to injure myself to remove something that I didn't need because it didn't belong to me. And I had to go to the hospital. And I mean, like, go to the hospital. It wasn't just, a temporary or like a minor thing. And when I got there, the person that took me to the hospital told them that I had fallen asleep and injured myself with the object. And whether or not they believed them, I don't know. But when they brought me home, they took me in the bedroom and literally beat the shit out of me with, on my arms, on my back, on my legs, where it wouldn't show. Jeez. Okay. And said that if I ever told anybody in the family or anything, anybody else, that they would come back and finish the job.
Wow.
I think very, very, in a very, very abusive alcoholic household with both parents being abusive alcoholics, and many of my family. So that was hidden, shoved way down.
Right.
For decades. When I was 14, 15, and 16, I tried terminal self-harm, and I didn't leave a note. I didn't call anybody, and there was no social media. There wasn't even, internet back then. It's just 76. And I just, I was done. I was done with living life. I was done with living the lie, whatever, And it just so happened every single time the circumstances worked out that I survived.
Wow.
I was married twice. I have 2 children and 9 grandchildren. And like I said, I started getting into activism about 99 or so. I came out to family members and stuff, 97.
Okay.
Came out in public, at work, etc. in 2015, and I've been out ever since. I have been on HRT, which for people who don't know, stands for hormone replacement therapy. 7 years, it'll be 7 years in May. And I've had surgery, and it's a lot easier to cross my legs now.
Right.
So, and I'm a mouthy bitch. And I'm on my blue sky is called the Angry Wrench, and I make a point of saying on there, the Angry Wrench is kind, the Angry Wrench is not nice. I do difference between the 2.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, that sounds great. So do you still speak to your family from before you transitioned?
Some family members. Now, like for example, one friend I had in high school 45 years ago. We kind of grew apart. We didn't have problems with each other. I went into service. She moved to a different state. And again, there was no way to contact each other or whatever. And I happened to be looking through not Facebook. I happened to get an email, classmates.com, whatever. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw her name in it, that she had added something to it or whatever. So I thought, well, maybe she's on Facebook. So I went and looked her up on Facebook and found we were called the Three Musketeers. My best friend, Sam, her name is Jackie. His name is Sam. He was the recruiter's son.
Okay.
And that's mainly the reason why I went into the Air Force instead of the Army. And I went to look on his timeline and decided I did not want to get back in contact with him. But I went to look on hers, and she's very queer friendly, et cetera, et cetera. So I sent her a message. She's like, "Oh my God, I've been wondering where you were." We first met in French class in 1975.
Wow.
And I absolutely loved the French teacher. Had her for 3 years, had straight A's all the way through. She just sent me, just out of the blue, because I've mentioned it before. I wanted to get a copy of it. It's not her copy, but an original copy of the French book that we used back then.
Oh, okay.
Old and worn and whatever, like me. But I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
I was just, curious about who you kept in contact with from before.
My family. So I have a sibling that it's really weird because they support pro-choice. Okay. They support me and queer people in general. Okay. They were the first one I came out to in the family. We were very close. We're not very close now. We were very close at the time. And if anybody had, rejected me and it would have hurt me hard, it would have been this person.
Right.
They're now a Trumper.
Wow.
And they voted for Obama twice. So they went from that. And I'm sure it probably was, they hated Hillary. I wasn't fond of her myself, but
right.
To go to Trump is like, ugh.
Yeah.
I have a cousin who I treat like a daughter, and her kids are like my grandkids. I have, probably half a dozen or more, half a dozen to a dozen family members that I talk to. I'm the oldest of 10. My mom was the middle of 13, and I have probably 300 or 400 cousins living up north. Whew. And I don't talk to any of them.
That's a lot of cousins to keep track of anyway.
I don't talk to any of them. So so probably a dozen or so, maybe. A couple of friends I have that I met in 97 when I came back, and the Bill and Lori, and Bill's older brother Don is somebody I went to school with and still get along with. I was coming out then and whatever, and they just accepted me right from the get-go. I babysit their kids when they were younger, and their kids are now in their 30s,
Right.
Boys. So I have some good people around.
Good. I sometimes wonder because, like you see so many terrible stories about families rejecting their family members who transition or even come out as gay or lesbian or non-binary or any of that stuff. But then they have no family, and often they get abandoned by a lot of the people that used to be their support system. So,
or they get kicked out, especially younger kids. We can get into it, as deeply as you want. But I've done shows on, legislation and et cetera. Over the last 2 years, 500 anti-trans bills have been proposed.
Right.
Across the nation, not just in one area. But they get kicked out. I was, I don't know if you call it lucky, but I didn't come out so that would have been, I was 45. Okay.
Right.
When I came out. I've been a sex worker. Initially, I did it for a little while. I was homeless in Michigan in February during the Reagan years. That was not fun.
I bet, yeah. Jeez.
What you got to do to survive. I have literally eaten out of dumpsters. But a lot of the younger kids nowadays, a lot of people think, because they have Caitlyn Jenner, and don't even get me started on that bitch.
Right.
Caitlyn Jenner, Janice Jennings, Janet Mock, RuPaul, etc. That it's like this huge community of trans people, across the United States or whatever, and we're like 2% of the population.
Yeah. No, it's a very, very small minority, and yet, like, if you believe the right, like, there would be it's like a a mob of people overrunning the entire country.
Where Diaper Don said, I'm pretty sure he said it during the debate with Kamala. I know he said it otherwise. That your kids go to school and get surgery and come home 8 hours later.
Yeah, like just not even in relation to reality in any way.
Or the litter box, rumor, and all that shit. And I asked people, how many trans people have been arrested for sexual assault in a bathroom in the last 20 years?
It's zero, right?
Zero, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many white male Christian Republicans have been arrested and convicted of molestation, child support, etc., assault in the bathroom, whatever? It is literally hundreds.
Yeah. I think there was a story it's probably 3 or 4 years ago now that I covered it was from the New York Times, of like a guy who went into the girls' change room, and all the headlines about it referred to him as a trans woman, right. But he absolutely was not. He was just a dude. And like he said he was not trans. Right. But of course it's like, so that's like
they want to push.
Yeah.
A lot of people claim that the Washington Post is right wing, and they are.
Yeah.
That the New York Post is right wing.
They really are.
And that they are, and that the New York Times is left wing, and they are not.
That's right.
They are centrist at best.
At best. Yeah.
I've seen many transphobic articles come from the New York Times. Anti-immigrant articles, etc. And there have been some others that have been, on the left side of the spectrum, the American left. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Which would be like right wing, in other countries.
Yeah.
I've said this before, that the American politics used to, and I think still does to a small extent, swing on a pendulum back and forth. I've been watching politics off and on for like 50 years.
Right.
Okay? Over the last half century, it's swung back and forth. But that middle section just keeps getting pulled further and further to the right. Because what happened started with Reagan and the moral majority. What happened was, look what happened with Reagan and Mondale. Reagan took 49 states. That's a mandate.
Yeah.
That's a landslide, Donald Trump, not your little 1.4%. That's a mandate. And the Democrats were like, of course they ran well for Mondale, but they're like, holy crap, we got to get some votes. We got to get back in power. So they started going a little bit to the right. And then what happened was the Republicans saw that and they said, oh, well, if they're going to pick up votes, we can't stay here. So they have to go part of the right. So it's just been slowly moving to the right ever since. You have Colin Allred, who ran for the Senate seat in Texas against Ted Cruz, Rafael Cruz. And, you already know automatically that Rafael is anti-trans. Okay, he's made many statements in the comment on the topic. Okay. And Colin Allred has been spouting out right-wing anti-trans talking points. And so, like I've mentioned on my social media, that, if you're a trans person living in Texas, I have 3 trans friends, for example, once, they were already in charge anyway. But they got a law passed so that 3 of my friends have had to go back to the DMV at the point of arrest if they don't. Okay, and get their driver's license gender changed back to male because of these. Okay, so if you're a trans person living in Texas, and I know quite a few, or if you're a trans ally living in Texas, you have a loved one or a friend or whatever. Okay, who do you vote for?
Yeah.
You vote for the person who wants to take away your rights, or do you vote for the person who wants to take away your rights? With the NDA, the Defense Act, 81 Democrats voted for it.
Right.
Despite the fact that there was a rabid anti-trans aimed at teenagers to begin, kids to begin with, because that's how we always start. Oh, it's for the children.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, said literally, used the words, "Oh, well, we lament our vote." But then they also said that if the vote came up like that, they would vote the same way again. We didn't lament shit.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not, you can't say that you lament it if you will do it again, right? How does that work?
Oh, I'm sorry I hit you, schmack. Oh, I'm sorry I hit you, schmack.
Yeah, no, that's nonsense, right? Yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's pretty gross, actually. Like the blatant like targeting of trans people the last few years, and it's gotten more and more rabid, and it's
Well,
just like such a small minority of people, and yet these are the people that are going to be actively harmed regularly. Like, I mean, it does amount to millions of people
right.
who are going to be harmed regularly because of these policies and
There's
actions.
roughly about a little over 3 million people that's guesstimated in the United States that are trans.
Yeah.
Less than, well, maybe 4 million people, but out of 330 million people.
Right. Yeah.
But we're other. Um, this is and a lot of people I know over the years, including, on the left as well as the right, have likened this politician or that politician to Hitler. You know, Obama's Hitler or Bush is Hitler or whatever. But when you hit the 14 points of fascism all the way down, every single one of them, the GOP has hit and continues to hit and
Yeah.
continues to.
Yeah.
And, we are focused on because it's a tactic that was used in Germany. Because if we can convince you that your life is horrible because of those people, then we don't have to fix anything as much. We can pretend that we're going to fix it, which is what the GOP have done, but we don't have to fix anything. And I remember talking to on it wasn't Twitter, it was Facebook. I remember talking to in a thread to someone else, one of my friends, and I said something along the lines of "We're the Jews of 1939," and
Mm,
this was like 6 months ago. And somebody who was Jewish, because it was a public thread,
right.
lost their shit over that and said, "How dare you compare it to the Shoah," which is what it's called in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Uh, how dare you compare it to the Shoah, et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, first of all, okay, I was a Orthodox Sephardic kashrut keeping Jew for 10 years, number one. I no longer practice, so if you want to say that I can't claim it, and I don't claim to speak for everybody, even when I was practicing, okay. But number two, where the fuck do you think the pink triangle came from?
Right.
Queer people, mostly men, but queer people in Germany, when they were, the people were liberated from the concentration camps, all the people that had pink triangles were kept in prison. They weren't released.
Yeah.
When they talk about the book burnings, probably a good 75% of those books or more had to do with sex studies.
Right.
And were relatively, I mean, not like pro, suggesting everybody get it or whatever, but we were relatively open about, being positive about it. No,
Yeah.
they had to burn those.
Yeah. Yeah. It was there was a school or was it a hospital or something that studied gender and sex and stuff. And yeah.
There's a movie called Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's well known in the trans community, the older trans community. I'm a trans elder, even though I think I'm 25. My knees tell me otherwise. But it's basically about the fact that Hedwig got surgery, okay, but at that time the reconstruction of a vagina was so minimal and whatever that she had a 1 inch depth, and that's why it's
Ah.
an angry inch. And it's
Ah.
about her journey and everything and all that stuff. Christine Jorgensen in the United States was not the first person to do it. She was
Right.
the first person in America to do it, to my knowledge, but she wasn't the first person to do it.
Right.
But yeah, we get targeted, we get blamed, called groomer. So I even had a family member say the word in my presence, but not directly aiming it at me. In fact, we were talking with another family member about Facebook, and I mentioned that I got banned for 3 days. No, excuse me, it was 30 days originally because I'm an author, and I wrote one of the stories that I wrote was a satire of the Three Little Pigs.
Oh, okay.
Bob Hobb and Nob versus Banks of Piddleston, case number 426. And I pillory both Republicans and liberals in there. And I mentioned that. And I started, I said, like, for example, with the liberals, I talked about soy food and the House of Twigs is made from purely organic twigs grown in the banks of the and then they jumped right in with, oh, yeah, well, Facebook is always trashing the conservatives and blah, blah, blah. And they're just a bunch of groomers. And I'm like, I'm standing right fucking here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I no longer talk to that individual. But we don't have any left media. Well, I mean, I take that back. We don't have any national legacy left media or
Right.
even democratic media, as far as I'm concerned. We have centrist media. I follow a lot of people: Brian Tyler Cohen, Ben Meiselas, Mark Elias, quite a few people. Probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 people I follow for politics. Um, um, Texas Paul, quite a few people on YouTube. Jesse Dollimore is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Because they give you, they're pundits, okay, so they're giving you their opinion, okay, but they're bringing you left stories that you just don't see otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's if you don't have an independent source, then you're not going to get a left perspective at all.
Or even anywhere near a reality-based perspective.
Well, that's just it, yeah. Like even the Young Turks, like they used to be kind of on the left, but then the last, I don't know, few years, they've kind of really pulled farther and farther to the right.
First of all, Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are both TERFs.
Yeah.
Horrible TERFs. Yeah. She lost her shit. And nobody even called her a Burton person. She just lost her shit over it.
Yeah.
Because they know hate makes money.
Yeah.
They can pull that grift in.
Yeah.
But then as far as the media goes, you have I did a clip. No, it was on my live show yesterday. Where I showed an image where it had what I call the old guard Democrats: Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer. Who else is up there? Steny Hoyer and somebody else. Can't remember who. Okay. And I showed, that picture. And I'm like, these people are all 70 years or older. And to me, it isn't about age. Like, if you start in Congress at age 60, cool. Okay.
Sure.
They started way younger. They've been in Congress for decades. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's time to get them out. If you want to still be a mover, shaker, power broker, whatever, okay, get out of Congress and mentor another person. When AOC was up for head of the DNC,
right?
I don't know if she actually was, campaigning for it. She was suggested for it. A lot of people wanted her to have it. A lot of the ground troops, so to speak, in the Democratic Party. Again, I'm a leftist, but I generally do vote Democrat. Wanted her to have it. Kamala Harris, when she, when Biden said he was going to step down, most people knew that if she didn't have a lock on it, she was pretty much going to be, the Democratic candidate. Nancy Pelosi said no. She wanted an open convention. They have 2 months. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Because all she's concerned about is power. The other one was Dianne Feinstein, who died in office.
Right. Yeah.
But they brought her vote. It was a day or two before she died.
Yeah, like not only are they like holding on to power until the very last minute, but they're also holding on to like the worst ideas from the past. Like they haven't adapted anything for climate change, for pro-LGBTQ plus rights, for anything economically progressive. Like they really just are not
a lot
anything
of the
but conservative.
Like, for example, I took heart in the fact that in the first week, Kamala Harris got $100 million in her campaign coffers. 80% or more of that was not big donors. It was from people donating $10, $20, $40, and like by 2 or 3 weeks, I forget where she had $200 million. Again, there's a lot of younger people and some older farts like me, but there's a lot of younger people who are interested in giving an actual alternative, a good alternative to the Republicans. And even the Republicans of 30 years ago, when this isn't like it was 30 years ago. They were still shitty 30 years ago. They just weren't as open about it then. But I think, like I mentioned on my show yesterday, I think the two things, it's not the only thing, but two of the things that hurt the Democrats with their base was like 70 million people stayed home and did not vote.
Yeah.
Now, they're not all going to vote Democrat, okay?
Right.
And so, with the country's makeup and the demographics and whatever, I figure it was probably relatively close, maybe 5 or 10% either way. But it could have kicked Harris into the win if they had voted, if a majority of them had voted, but they didn't. 2 points, I think, why. One is trans people, and the other is Gaza. Because most of the trans people voted for Harris and
Right.
Walz. Okay, I did. Whether or not I didn't like all of their policies. I still don't. Okay, I wish they had done. They'd come out and done more in favor of Gaza. We didn't get any real. We were mentioned in the DNC convention, but nobody spoke.
Mm.
And they also did not allow anybody to mention, or pretty much mention, or speak for Gaza.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a big one there. I live in Michigan, Western Michigan, the hinterlands, and there's a large Arab American population down in Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, kind of like a paraphrasing of the question I had about Texas, a lot of these, there were interviews of people, in Detroit saying, I have relatives in Gaza. I have relatives who have been killed in Gaza. I have relatives who I haven't been in contact with. I don't know if they're still alive in Gaza. So who do you vote for? The people that support Israel or the people that support Israel?
Yeah, that's right. You're pro-genocide party or you're pro-genocide party?
Because Biden finally eventually made a little bit of noise about a ceasefire. Okay.
Yeah.
Not very much. And he was forced into it. Biden, stopped the arms shipments. No, he stopped one.
Yeah.
He didn't stop the rest.
Yeah.
But Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans all know that the right and right-leaning Christians in this country, to a large extent, support Israel. Not because they like Israel, not because they like Jews, but because the Bible says that, you have to have Israel in order to have Armageddon come, and for Jesus to come. And it's difficult. So, I also made a point the other day about, sorry if I'm, monopolizing. I'm not trying to.
No,
I made a point the other day about atheists because I'm open that I'm a secular pagan on Blue Sky, but I made a comment something along the lines of that. A lot of atheists come from religion.
Yeah.
They keep the God part. They throw the God part away, but they keep all the rest of the baggage.
Yeah.
A couple of people lost their shit and crawled out of the woodwork and over shit-laden broken glass to tell me I was wrong and this and that and whatever. Okay. I worked on the Atheist Experience show.
Okay.
During the time of the implosion. Okay?
Right.
When they platformed Stephen Woodford, okay, Rationality Rules, the 100% trans vote, he can go fuck himself with a cactus. And I mean, I have pictures of him and Eric Murphy and Jamie Boone. This isn't sexual in any way, but, being pals and buddies, and because he didn't want to pay for a hotel or whatever, sleeping on the floor next to each other in the Atheist Experience, or the ACA, whichever one it was, offices.
Right.
Okay? I still have all of the emails. I have a lot of what are called receipts. Okay.
Right.
So, all this happened. Okay. So then, the Atheist Experience put out a, apology. Okay. We apologize to the trans community. Less than 24 hours later, they flipped that around and apologized to him.
Right. Yeah.
And I have a timeline of every single thing that happened during that time frame. Okay. Ethel has helped me with that timeline, and I've helped them.
And I was still in the atheist community at that time. I was doing my own atheist podcast, and it was quite a shit show.
I like a lot of atheists. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of them, especially. I don't want to say that they're not political, but like Phil Plait, Bad Astronomy. Okay, I absolutely adore him. Okay. I used to like Lawrence Krauss until he turned into this right-wing jackass.
Well, he was also he was also came out as like a sex pest, right? Like,
right.
So
him. There's another one, David Silberman. I had a lot of. I mean, at one point, I remember Lawrence Krauss had was doing a debate with a couple Muslims, in London. Okay. And one of his stipulations was that, because he figured there were a lot of Muslim students, okay, that the audience should not be segregated, okay, into men and women. So he walks out on stage. He's got his backpack with, I'm assuming, his laptop and a book and whatever, okay, and he looks up, and they are. And he said, no, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Right.
Like, what? He said, I told you, I don't want to segregate it, okay? If you keep it that way, I'm going to leave. So they actually asked students to go back and forth, and they did, okay? so I had a lot of respect for him for that.
Sure.
And then he turned out to be a shithole.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, I'm just done with it. Aaron Ra is another one. He can go fuck himself.
Oh, was that right?
Yes, I remember watching a clip. It was during one of the atheist conventions. And I believe that particular talk at the time was about philosophy and atheism, whatever. And they were talking about, different things, whatever. And he stood up and he said, what does this have to do with atheism? Why are you talking about it? Okay.
I had a lot of disagreements with fellow atheists who thought we should stick to the God question, as though belief in God doesn't extend beyond that one thing, right?
Or like I said, they bring that bad baggage. Matt Dillahunty literally called me out by name, my previous name, saying that, because I went by Aaron, that Aaron is a liar. And I never said anything after that because I mentioned on his timeline, because I was on it at the time, I have receipts. I still have the receipts. I can prove every single thing I do, any black.
Yeah.
Jimmy Snow and I got into a Twitter fight. I was on Twitter at the time. Because it was during that time frame when people were like putting pumpkins in their profile, as a support for the trans community, and that would be fine, okay? Because what it started with was a few religious people, pastors, assholes, talked about trans people and fruits. That's been a slur against queer people for
Yeah.
Okay, so some person started. I don't know who. Well, since they're going to call fruits, I'm going to put pumpkin in my profile. Okay. And that kind of took out my wildfire, and that's cool. Okay.
Sure.
But Jimmy Snow made a comment. I can't remember what it was. It was ragging on some preacher. I forget who it was. Okay. And I asked him, I said, well, what about Woodford? What about Matt Dillahunty? Why haven't you done, because he said he'd done a show on it. Why haven't you done a show about that? Well, no, you haven't. Okay, I can go back and look at every single one of your shows, and I can prove that you haven't done any shows on it. Oh, well, I've been sick this last week. Okay. And I said, well, it's kind of funny because you did 4 shows. Okay.
Right.
During that time frame. You were well enough to do those. And then he pulled I have a trans friend. I'm going to call them, message them, okay, to come and defend me. Matt Dillahunty has, and I don't know if they're still together, has a trans girlfriend.
Okay.
And I want to say, I'm hoping that I'm accurate in saying that I don't think he was with her just for the buffer, so to speak. Okay.
Right.
But that there was a lot of, you get that concept, but in a different demographic of, well, I can't be racist. I have a black boyfriend.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't, bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, she was on, she was on the show quite a few times. I don't know if she still is or not. And she was talking about trolling one time. Somebody had called in and was talking about trolling. Okay. And she said, well, don't worry about it. I'm paraphrasing, kind of my exact words. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You can just ignore it and go on with your life. She's what I would call, and I hate this term, but what I would call 99% passing. Okay.
Okay.
Only with close examination would I be able to determine that she's trans. And even then, I could still have been wrong. Okay. But it would take a good, and believe me, my transdar, so to speak, you got gaydar, I got transdar, it's pretty strong. Okay. Yeah, if you have that passing, what if let's take a phrase that I've seen before. What if you look like a linebacker in a dress?
Right.
What if you're a kid who looks like a linebacker in a dress? They don't have that passing privilege that you do.
Right. Yeah.
And then Caitlyn Jenner is constantly used as a example of, Caitlyn Jenner, she's trans and she's got lots of money. And she had money before she came out.
Yeah.
One. Number 2, she's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
She claimed, she said more than once that boys shouldn't play in girls' sports. Okay. And yet she played for the WPGA,
Yeah.
Then you got Blair White. I'm going to start on that racist bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good person.
No. But, so we have our share of jerks and assholes, just like any other, demographic, whatever.
Right.
But, it's dangerous for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I mentioned earlier, I've been on HRT for almost 7 years. I've had surgery. If I stop my medication now, I go into a depression spiral because of it.
Right.
But the physical changes that I've had in my body wouldn't reverse themselves.
Right.
Okay. There are people who could be stopped from even starting it. Okay, depending on what legislation is passed and whatever. There could be people who are stopped from taking it at whatever point they are. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to find that terminal self harm, because I don't want to use the S word, has spiked.
Right.
Because of these jackasses.
Yeah.
And because of these hypocrites, because it's distraction.
Yeah.
So let me switch into a completely different topic.
Sure.
But just for that word, distraction, okay? So you have, you think, because it was very briefly on my show yesterday. So you have Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Dr. Oz, I call him Brainworm Bobby, Robert Kennedy Jr., and there's another one. Can't remember who it is. Okay. Cabinet appointees. Matt Gaetz. Cabinet appointees by Trump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Horrible, horrible, horrible people.
Yeah.
Don't know shit about the job. He basically, like Pam Bondi. Okay. Basically, Pam Bondi does know a little bit because he picked her as the Attorney General nomination now that Matt Gaetz stepped down because of his bullshit.
Right.
But Pam Bondi, because she was Attorney General twice in Florida, failed to do anything to protect Florida residents from the Trump University scam, and even praised Kyle Rittenhouse's actions.
Of course. Yeah.
So you have all these shitty people, okay? But what have people seen in the media the last week about these people? Almost nothing. What you've seen is Canada, Greenland, Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to make Canada the 51st state. Oh, he's going to buy Greenland or maybe take it by force. Or no, he's not. He's just
right.
fucking not. Okay. And he's not taking Canada by force either. But what he's trying to distract from is not only the cabinet positions, but when those tariffs come in, if they do come in, I'm not so sure they will.
Right.
Because
it's going to wreak havoc on the economy in the United States.
It's going to fuck companies over, not just us.
That's right.
Fuck us over. But it's going to fuck companies over because people. There was a company, pretty famous story or well-known story. I don't remember the company's name in Pennsylvania. That was it wasn't like a steel mill company, but it had something to do with steel products. Okay.
Okay.
And the owner, CEO, sat everybody down a week or so before Christmas and said, "You're not getting a Christmas bonus."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What?" He said, "You're not getting a Christmas bonus because with the tariffs coming, we had to buy for the entire supplies for the entire year ahead of time because we wouldn't be able to afford this stuff otherwise." And he had to explain to them that what the tariffs were, and that it didn't mean that China, for example, had to pay the tariffs.
Right.
We had to pay, meaning companies. We had to pay the tariffs. Okay. Prices of eggs, whatever. But here's the thing: in late September, early October, at my local Walmart where I used to work, a 6-pack of eggs was 98 cents.
Right.
A little higher than normal, but whatever. Okay. I went there 2 days before Christmas, and it was $2.50. Haven't even gotten any tariffs yet. There's no bird flu. There's no nothing like that.
Yeah.
During that bird flu thing, which went from roughly middle of February to late November of 22, in the first part of March, a box of 60 eggs at Walmart here was like $7, between $7 and $8. Okay. By middle of September, it jumped up to $24.
Right.
And then it eventually dropped back down. I think they're like $10 now. Eggland's Best, one of the main popular brands of brand name eggs, jumped their prices 63%. They didn't have any avian bird flu whatsoever in their products. Right. Not a bit. But they got a price gouge.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not inflation. It has nothing to do with inflation. It has to do with, because what those companies could have done, we know that they wouldn't, but what those companies could have done is said, you know what, we're going to take a temporary dip on our profits. We're not going to pass that cost along to the consumers. It's going to make the consumers give us more of, I guess you could call it a brand loyalty. Okay.
Right.
We're not going to do that. We're going to pass the cost on to the consumer. Okay. And it just, it screwed people over. Look, people talk about, that was a big thing, egg prices. And Trump's like, day one, I'm going to drop the prices and whatever. And then he hasn't even taken office yet. It wasn't
Right.
even January 1st yet, and he's talking about, well, it's going to be kind of hard. I don't think I'm going to be able to drop him right away, and it's kind of difficult, and it's very complicated, and whatever.
Yeah.
The MAGA base, and a lot of those who are very, very conservative, but not quite MAGA, swallowed Trump's bullshit hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And they fell into that trap of believing everything he said. And then, the biggest Google search the week or two after the election in a lot of red states was, how do I change my vote? You can't.
You can't.
You're a dumbass. You can't. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, whoops. I accidentally voted for the guy who's actually going to wreck my life even a little bit more. Oh, yeah. No,
I've said all along, one of the main reasons, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons they support Trump is because he hates the same people they hate. Trump's a racist flat out.
Yeah.
Okay. Been proven over and over and over. And so I'm not saying that everybody who supports Trump is a racist. I'm saying that racists support Trump. And so when he got, he's like, oh, give me your votes and I'll do this and I'll do that and whatever. What it is because they know they have white privilege. They know.
Right. Yeah.
They also know they're poor and they're getting screwed over.
Yeah.
There isn't a person in this country who's making less than $30,000 a year, which is $15 an hour, that magic thing that boomers seem to, get pissed off by.
Right.
But they know they're getting screwed over. But they also know that whether it's economically or socially or culturally, those people, the non-white people, are getting screwed over just a little bit more. And they don't want to lose that tiny bit of privilege. That's where his power comes from.
Yeah, it's very much a game for the politicians, right? And Trump is on that side of that, where they can scapegoat whoever they want because people are watching the news and that's where they're getting their information. They're not looking at it from a critical perspective where they're like, oh yeah, well, except this tariff actually doesn't affect Canada. It affects us.
Or, they're not studying their best talking about Mexico, or they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. And then, so Canada and Mexico, like almost from the day that he said it, are talking about retributive tariffs.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, in Canada's people aren't real happy about that, and I understand why, and same for Mexico. But, Mexico has a Jewish president, and she, because, they're, just like the Irish, okay, we have no problem with a woman being president, okay, unlike America. But she said, you know what, we're not taking this shit lying down, okay? We'll put tariffs on you in a heartbeat. We'll see how that goes,
Yeah.
But the tariffs, even if they don't, even if Canada doesn't and Mexico doesn't, we get a lot of our shit from both countries.
Yeah.
Steel, concrete, wood, food, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Or we're going to deport all the immigrants. Okay, who's going to work in the fields?
Yeah, that was Mulrooney and Reagan back in the 80s, and I don't know who the president of Mexico was then, but like that's North American Free Trade, NAFTA.
Right, NAFTA.
Yeah. And like that was the whole thing there. Like if they want to start dismantling NAFTA, like Canada, a lot of Canadians were like anti-NAFTA, right? Like because we weren't getting full value for our resources. And so if Trump wants to switch that up so that we get full value for our resources, that's fine.
Reagan did the whole amnesty bill. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that they're going to do that now.
No, that's right.
Okay, so and what a lot of people don't realize, okay, even aside, which I'll get to in a second, but the work in the fields itself, because you're a farm worker, you can be paid less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So where are all these white people? Oh, they're taking our jobs. So you're going to work in the fields for 12 to 14 hours a day, okay, for $6 an hour.
Right.
If that, well, I mean, the federal minimum wage is still only $7.25. Okay,
yeah. And
you can be paid lower than that if you're a farm worker. So you're going to work in the fields 12 hours a day for $5 an hour.
Yeah.
You're not.
Not happening.
So food is going to become scarce. Supplies are going to become scarce. Toilet paper, whatever, maybe not as much as in the pandemic, or the height of the pandemic, I should say, because people are still dying every day from COVID. Every single day, people are still dying.
That's right.
But, Americans aren't going to fill those jobs in general. Okay,
In general, yeah.
fill those jobs, and it's not just in the fields. Look what happened in Florida with them passing the law saying that basically what they were going to do is they were going to have greater inspection powers to check people's immigration status. Okay, and a lot of the immigrants were like, you know what, we're out of here.
Yeah.
And even before they said that, in general, a lot of business owners were like, whoa, wait a minute. I want my workers to stay here. So they even came out and said, he doesn't really mean you. Yeah, they fucking did.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, this is all distraction. That's all it is. It's othering. It's if you are a leader of a country and your country people are having problems, okay, that you can't fix right away for whatever reason, okay, or you don't want to fix, but they're having problems. You have to do something to take that anger from your populace and redirect it.
Yeah.
So if you say, oh, well, the reason you're having problems is because the people across the border over there, they're the assholes. They're the one causing the problems.
Yeah.
Or
that's right.
inside their own country, because it's a lot easier to control, it's the Jews causing problems. It's the trans people causing problems. It's the black people causing problems.
Yeah.
And you get that redirection.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's been happening for centuries. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you think even like back to like the Vietnam War, like a lot of stuff was going on to distract people from the fact the United States was losing that war.
Right.
and like, yeah, the trouble is, I guess, like it's a technically a distraction and a game politicians play, but it has real world impacts on people that are targeted by that.
Exactly. Look at Kent State and the shooting.
Yeah.
I missed Nam by 3 years. It ended Saigon fell in summer of '75. I can't remember the exact month/date. I graduated in '78. I would have went to Nam.
Right. Eh?
I have cousins who went to Nam. Some of them didn't come back. I had one of my favorite people. His name is Dave. He used to be a maintenance director at the nursing home that I worked at the time. And I knew he was a vet. We talked about, being a vet because I'm a vet also. We talked about it on occasion. Well, he happened to be outside at the time. I was smoking, and so was he. We happened to be outside on break, smoking a cigarette, and somebody started, ranting and raving about somebody who, at the time, this was in the late 90s, about burning the flag. And it's un-American, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And he said, no. He said, absolutely not. He said, I went to Vietnam to support that.
Right.
Yeah.
I
got a lot of respect for him. I had respect for him anyway, but I had a lot of more respect for him for that reason. I served in the military, and I'm not a gung ho, rah rah, sis boom ba patriot by any stretch of the imagination. But like I've said about the Democratic Party, I guess you could sort of call me a Democrat politically, mentally, whatever. I lean more towards socialism, but you're not going to fix the problems if you ignore them.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have these people that do all these things to distract on the left, quote unquote, left side. Okay. They ignore the problems, and it just keeps continuing and getting worse. And like I said, they keep swinging further to the right. When Dave was talking about the flag, it was a larger concept, of what it means to be free and et cetera. When I went in the military, like I said, I wasn't, rah rah sis boom ba. But it wasn't at the end of the Cold War. It was getting close to the end of the Cold War, but it wasn't at the Cold War. And I got stationed over in Germany voluntarily. I loved Germany. It was awesome. So shout out to Germany. I love the food, the people, the whatever, except for the AFD. They can go fuck themselves.
Right.
But that's they're basically their Nazi party right now. But I absolutely love Germany. And the climate was just like Michigan. So it was kind of like home.
Right.
But when I went there, I was, again, I was still in the cult at the time. Okay. But I was misguided and ignorant. Okay. Just flat out. But I believed at the time in the ideals in this country. I still believe in the striving for ideals, but I don't believe we've ever had the ideals.
Right.
And I felt, it was worth it to risk my life for it. I've told people this before. For example, we had gas masks. Okay, because now, and a lot of people don't know. I don't know if it's still that way. That you have one type of gas mask which keeps out particulates,
Yep.
but does not keep out small particulates. Okay, those went to the officers.
Okay.
Your gas mask was tailored to you. Okay,
Yep.
so if you're right-handed, okay, it was on my left side, and vice versa. Okay, so the method, and I'll explain this because I'm going to go into it for just a second. So the method of opening up the gas mask, it was a canvas bag, okay, and it had two snaps. You grab the lid, the flap, pulled it open. You reach in and grab it with your right hand. As you're pulling it out, you grab the straps and you fit it up over your head, put your hands below it, and you're done. Okay.
Right.
So you have 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That mask isn't sealed by now, you're dead. That's simple. You're dead.
Yeah.
We had ORIs every month, but it would be random. It might be like the first of this month and then the 30th of the next month or whatever. Okay. We always did war games. Okay. Operational readiness inspections. I was with the 52nd Tech Wing. And so we did, and people asked me before, what was your job in the Air Force? And I say 328X3. And they're like, what? And I said, well, that was the numerical designation. ECM, electronic countermeasures. But so anyway, we had our war games. Okay, so when they went up, when we started our war games, we never knew. They didn't say, okay, well, Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock or Wednesday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have war games. They didn't announce it ahead of time. They just put it on, and we knew that. Okay, but we also never knew when they went up. Okay, when they took off, if it was real or not. Okay? And we were, I think, 23 clicks from the border. Okay. East-west border, and the Russians knew where all our bases were. Okay, the Russians, they had the satellites, and the Russians knew the kind of planes we had, et cetera. Okay, so we also knew if they went up and it was real, we were glass. We were dead. We were radioactive glass. We were not going to survive it.
Yeah.
And we still did the job. We still did the job anyway. And I'm sure other people may have had different reasons or whatever, but I know a lot of my friends did, and I had that faith at the time in the government, and in the military, whatever.
Right.
I was raised a white Christian nationalist, as I said, and that faith started breaking down. And I still believe in the striving for the ideals of this country. Benjamin Franklin, who is, I have some respect in some ways for, and he was also an adulterer and had slaves and whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But he, in his autobiography, he talks about the fact that I don't know if he ever did it or not, but that he decided he was going to write down all the virtues, okay, and then he was going to perfect them one by one.
Right.
Start on this one and get it perfect, and start on that one and get it perfect. Honesty, whatever. Okay.
Sure.
That by the time he got close to the end, it would be easier because of the other ones that he had passed, and become as close as, knowing that he wouldn't be completely perfect, but become as close as possible.
Could be a virtuous person.
Yeah, he gave up the fourth one.
Yeah, of course.
And, in retrospect, he said it wasn't the right words. It wasn't the achievement of perfection, because that was impossible. It was the striving for perfection that made man great. And I think that way myself to this day. We could be, prior to, it's not Trump. Okay, Trump's a symptom. Okay,
right.
Trump is just the scalpel that ripped the scab off the wound. Okay, of the racism and the bigotry and everything that has been festering underneath for 300 years.
Yeah.
But we could be better, a lot better. And I think there's a lot of people in this country that want us to be better. And even some people, now when I say on the right, I don't mean MAGA. And I don't mean the fervent, hat wearing, flag wearing people, but a lot of people who may not be completely comfortable with some liberal stuff, but they want to, look at Kamala Harris. Now, I'm not saying she's conservative, but look at Kamala Harris, okay? A few times, they mentioned trans people in the convention. We weren't allowed to be there, but, they did mention us. And when she came in for some panel, I forget where it was, okay, she said, and she got a lot of bullshit from the right for it, but she sat down, and as she sat down, because there were two people who were visually impaired there, my name is Kamala Harris, I use she, her pronouns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? And the right wing lost their shit over it, but she was being polite and letting people know, because she knew that a couple people were visually impaired. okay, and letting people know. When I was working at Walmart, of the last year that I was there, you can get little pronoun stickers that are about this big.
Oh, yeah.
She, her, she, her, he, him, they, them, etc. Okay, they put it on your badge. And I put one on there. And one of my friends, I have like a half a dozen people at Walmart that are management that are friends of mine on Facebook.
Okay.
Because, yeah, they work for Walmart, and yeah, they have to enforce Walmart policies, but given the policies that they do, they try to do as best as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one in particular individual I'm thinking of, his brother is gay, and he was the best man in his wedding.
Okay.
Very supportive of the queer community. And so he saw it one day, and he said, "Hey, I got to ask you a question." We went in the back, call it the back alley. It's the back hallway between the offices. And he said, "Where'd you get the pronoun sticker?" And I said, "Oh, I bought it online." He said, "Do you have it?" He said, "Oh, yeah, they come in like $5 for 8 sheets or whatever it is." He said, "Well, would you mind?" He said, "Would it be inappropriate for me to bring them in and ask people, when they come in for the orientation?" I said, "Well, it's I wouldn't want to single someone out and say, well, hey, if you want a pronoun sticker," I said, "but just mention in passing, and just in case anyone wants it, we got pronoun stickers here. If anyone wants to put it on their badge, time badge, okay. Now, as for when you do lunches, so just don't make a big deal out of it."
Right.
Like, I would still get occasionally misgendered by people, okay, who I knew for years, but they knew me for 5 years before I came out.
Right.
So I gave them a little bit of leeway at first, okay. Right. And so I was talking in the hallway one day, and it was this person, my friend, 2 other management members, lower management members. And we're talking whatever, and they said, reference to me, when he goes up there, and I said she. And it just went on talking. Didn't make a big deal out of it. Didn't, start screaming, hollering, whatever, Yep. And he told me later, he took me aside, and he said that he liked how I did that because it was just like, just natural.
Okay? Yeah, yeah.
One of my, I have to say she's pretty close to my favorite person at Walmart, other than, one of them is a team lead, and she is got to be close to 40. And the other is a team lead, and she's in her early 20s. And I love them both to death. They're awesome. But this particular team lead, and I had always got along great. And I was stocking milk one day. So when you're stocking milk, you're putting it in from behind, to slide down in the racks or whatever. Okay. Right. And she came up to me, and I went by another name then. She said the name, and then she said, a couple of associates came to me and asked me, it was a very, very bad day, asked me and said that, it seemed like you weren't your usual self. Because like 95% of the time I was not only up, I was singing. I've been singing at work for 40 years.
Right.
And she said, "So is there anything I can do? Is there anything you want to talk about?" And her name is Ashley. I won't say her last name. And I stopped. I said, "Well, Ashley," I said, "I want to continue doing this milk, and I want to focus on this." I said, "Because if I don't, what I'm going to do is put the milk down, walk out the store, and into traffic." I was dead serious, and she knew it. She goes, "Oh, okay, well, if you do want to talk later, just holler at me." Okay, so I know that they kind of kept an eye on me, because I was very open about, I didn't mention it all the time, but I was very open about my depression, etc. So I asked her later, I said, "Can we talk for a little bit?" And she goes, "Sure." And she took me to one of the back offices, nobody else there, locked the door, and we talked for 40 minutes. Not once did she look at her watch. Not once did she say, "Okay, well, I do need to get out of the floor." Nothing. And, and I ramble, in any way, shape, or form. Did she try to hurt him or anything? And I give her a hell of a lot of kudos for a lot of respect. And I liked her in general anyway. Right. But even more so after that. So not everybody that works at Walmart is an asshole. There are a lot who are, okay, but they drop their DEI. Okay? But not everybody who, at least in the lower echelon, not everybody who works there is an asshole.
Yeah.
And let me tell you one more thing. Sorry, I'm not trying to
monopolize. Yeah.
Let me tell you one more thing before I give him a chance to speak. We talk about you. Every single person at Walmart, how they have like okay, well, it's kind of back to blue, but it's Walmart workers. Now, there's some Walmart workers that are shitty people. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we talk about you.
Of course.
Break room. Okay, we laugh at you when in your break room. When you come in with your Karen attitude or your Chad attitude or whatever, okay, we might, smile, be nice to your face, whatever, because we're paid to do so.
Yeah.
But we talk about you constantly.
Of course.
I've said before, because I write books, that I should get stories from people. Obviously, the names are changed to protect the ignorant. I mean, innocent. It's an old Dragline. What the show was it called? Dragnet line. But get a bunch of stories from people. Like one of my supervisors, I happened to be off that night. He was telling me about the next night. He and I have been friends for 8 years. Got punched in the middle of his chest.
Oh, geez.
For refusing to, for the guy wanted to buy beer. He's in a line with two people who work there at lunch. Okay, and they're, so they're buying for lunch. Okay, and so as the second person is walking away, he turned around and he says, you can't buy that beer, as by guys putting up the beer on the counter, whatever the hell the name of it is. Okay, and he said, why? He said, because it's past 2:00. It's like 5 minutes past Saturday night. You can't sell it.
Yeah.
Okay, past 2:00 from 2 to 7. So he looks at the cashier as they're walking away, and she says, no, sir, I can't sell it to you. So he started, talking to her like in a loud voice at first, and then yelling at her, and the manager heard it, came over, was trying to talk to him to calm him down, and he didn't throw the beer at the cashier, but he kind of threw it at the, what is his name for that? The conveyor belt. Okay, he kind of threw it at the conveyor belt, and it didn't bust the beer open because of cans, but it did bust the case open, the paper case open. And the manager started saying, hey, you don't need to do that. And her turned around and punched him right in the chest. Because he had been drinking. He wasn't drunk, but he'd been drinking a little bit. Well, boy went to jail. Because good or for bad, it's not always good, believe me. I've heard a lot of bad stories about cops in Walmart. They called, the manager told me later that when the cashier, because they always have a phone on them, in case there's a shooter or whatever too, they called the cops and they were literally there in less than 2 minutes.
Oh.
And that boy went to jail. I as maintenance, when you're maintenance at Walmart, telling your secrets, Walmart, when you're maintenance at Walmart, only maintenance and salaried employees are allowed to clean up blood products or biological products, spit, blood, vomit, whatever. Okay, because we're trained to do it and management's trained to do it. The rest of the associates can't do it. I literally had to clean up human shit in an aisle. Also dog shit too on occasion, but I literally had to clean up human shit in an aisle.
That's wild. That's
one person took one of the larger bottles of laundry detergent, opened it up, and drew a penis on the floor. Okay, put the cap back on, but loose. Okay, and put it back there. So what happened was another customer came along, saw it, kind of laughed at it. Okay. And just happened to pull that same bottle, and the cap was loose, and came out and dropped it all over the floor. So I had to go and clean it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we laugh at you. We talk about you.
For sure. I guess we're over an hour now, so I guess before we go, let's talk about your book page on Amazon and your YouTube channel.
Okay. So my page currently is www.amazon.com/author/Aaron Green. It's spelled ErinGreene. That's my old pen name. It's not my real name. And I'm changing that to Siobhan O'Connor. But I haven't done it yet. I have 6 books there. I have a couple short story series. There's a book for kids called The Land of Fall about a magical island. There's a book for younger kids. A picture book called Puddles of Wonder Coyote. I have a book called The Shining Realms. I have a pagan cookbook, a book of poetry, a book of short stories, short horror stories, etc. So that's on Amazon. If you look up Aaron Green, Greene on Amazon, you'll find that.
Perfect.
I'm on Blue Sky as the Angry Wrench, and also Siobhan, how it's spelled here, all one word, Siobhan of the Fae, Fae, on Blue Sky. That's my writing account on Blue Sky, and then the Angry Wrench for that. The YouTube currently is my old channel, still hashtag not all hippies. So one, it's a hashtag _ not, etc. It is, there's a lot of activist stuff still on there. I've been trying to change it to the Angry Wrench. I do have a channel for that too, but for some reason Restream doesn't want me to do that. I don't know why. And so I'm kind of battling back and forth with them.
Okay.
But so that's basically either hashtag not all hippies. If you put that in the YouTube search, you'll find it.
Perfect.
And it's a blonde, cartoonish icon that I made with a peace sign, or the Angry Wrench. One of those two. Okay. Cool. I do show up on Wednesdays and Sundays. Wednesdays are a little shorter, and then I do clips Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for chatting with me today. And
I appreciate you having me on.
For sure.
Appreciate you having me on. Anytime, obviously not like the next show or whatever, but anytime you want me back, I'm more welcome to come back. If there's a particular topic that we want to focus on or whatever, instead of me just rambling, for an hour.
Sounds good.
We can do that.
Right on.
Peace, everybody.
All right, folks, that's all for now. Thanks for watching or listening. Remember to share this show with your friends or on the social media site that you use the most. Thank you to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. I really appreciate it, and it helps me keep the power on. Thanks to my top patrons, Damian Marie at Hope, Some Random Geek, Justin Clark, Dan F. Smith, and Lisa Glass. And thank you to my new patrons. You can stay tuned for the list of patrons at the end to see your name listed. If you aren't a patron and want to contribute, you can do that at patreon.com/skepticalleftist, or you can send a one-time donation to buymeacoffee.com/skepticallefty. I also have a Substack where you can subscribe for free or you can donate per month. And lastly, you can get a paid subscription on Spotify that will give you the same access to bonus content and extra long episodes. If you can't contribute financially, then I'd like on YouTube or a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or one of the podcast review sites like Podchaser would be great. If you want to find more from me, then make sure to check out the show notes for links to all my stuff, or check out my Linktree. It's linktr.ee/skepticalleftist. That's where you can find all of my social media spaces and communities. You can also email me at mindofaskepticalleftist@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Make sure to leave a comment on the video, join your local org, print off some posters or pamphlets, and spread the propaganda.
It's just like, guys when they do body count for women.
Yeah. No, it's garbage, right?
It's 100% garbage. Okay, because if nothing else, baby's head is that fucking big.
Yeah, that's right.
Comes to, like this, but it's that fucking big, okay? And then it snaps back into place. It's like a rubber band.
That's
okay?
Right.
You can stretch it all you want, but it's going to snap back into its natural shape and natural size. Okay?
Yeah.
But, the guy will say, oh, well, she's been with, 10 guys, and if she did it 10 times, that's, 100 guys worth, okay? Say, well, that's interesting, because if she was living with you, for 10 years, she'd have it more than 100 times.
Right.
She stretched out then.
Yeah. Why is it suddenly like different because it's different guys?
Right.
Like, yeah. For sure.